So I was on the Metro Council when MBK was first launched in 2014, and a good mentor of mine, Francis Guest, was one of the champions that convinced then Mayor Carl Dean to commit Nashville to becoming an MBK community. And of course, I supported the commitment at that time. And as I matriculated through my career through government, working in the mayor's office and now in juvenile court clerk, I just became more involved with and more interested in the success of MBK and the mission of MBK to really promote achievement for boys of young and young men of color. We have an alliance of close to 12 organizations that work with us consistently on shared goals of making sure every boy and young man of color are reading at grade level by third grade, and making sure that they're graduating high school ready for college and career, and that all of that's entrenched into mentorship.
In 2015, I started working with the mayor's office, working within Mayor Megan Berry. Myself and Lonnel began to have various community-wide organization meetings, and we started to see more and more there were issues faced by young youth that weren't being addressed. Lonnel had been speaking about the MBK program that Mayor Dean originally started, and we began to have conversations about what can we do internally to the mayor's office to bring this back to life and start it up. As I was working with a lot of issues dealing with equity and inequities and how do we give communities exactly what they need to be successful. So we had a long conversation. It was like, this is something that we need to do. It was started by certain members in the mayor's office under Mayor Dean. We wanted to just really grab it at the time. We had several incidents in the community where young black men were shot by the police at the time. We saw young black men having issues and brown men and boys as well. And we said now is the time to capitalize on really bringing together this collective impact model for the young boys within our community. So we started it back up. I'm the co-chair with Lonnel, and really, you know, my passion around this is really the literacy piece and really making certain that young black and brown boys have access to post-graduation success. They can learn about culture, but then they create this family and this village of men that support them. And I think we're headed in that direction now. I mean, when I think about growing up in MBK, right? So I have to kind of start with my story as well. You know, I came to Nashville from Knoxville to attend Tennessee State University to be a business marketing major. I wanted to make a lot of money. I wanted to travel and, you know, do that. But unfortunately, by a traumatic event in my life, my sophomore year at Tennessee State, my best friend was killed by gun violence at home in Knoxville. Right. I had another friend about 8 months later that was also killed by gun violence. Right. So when I think about me and the way that I grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee, if there was an MBK there, right, for me and my friends, you know, I would dare say that maybe a lot of us would be alive still right now. Some of them would be alive, me and my friends that unfortunately took the route and went to jail, some of which are still in jail. I think there would have been that organization, those men in place that could have supported us, right? A lot of the young men I grew up with, you know, grew up in single family homes with mom or grandmom, right? And there was never an outlet. There was never really an organization that spoke to us to really bring us in as young black boys in the community. And I think MBK now has the opportunity to really fill in the void for those places within our community to make certain that we don't lose any more young men from the cracks. You know, Tupac had a famous poem, The Rose That Grew from Concrete. Mm-hmm. So there's always a me or a Lonnel or others that is going to make it, right? Because there's something over our lives. But then there's a lot of young men that don't make it out of the concrete, right? And we want to fill in that spot right now with MBK to be able to give them hope, right? To be able to show them there's a different route and there's a village of support around you, right? So the importance of a program like this, the importance of just young black boys seeing someone positive and being able to walk them through the steps, man, is just invaluable to life.
Like Ashford, I've had people in my life that have lost their lives. I was part of, when I was in high school, I was part of a high school fraternity here in Nashville called Sigma Psi Omega. And that experience of going through a fraternal experience, having a sense of belonging at that age, did wonders for building out my network, for making sure that I had mentors, whether they were alumni or peer mentors. But there still wasn't a connectivity that Ashford really spoke about that MBK really brings to bringing together organizations. And we have a lot of organizations in the city that are doing great work with boys and young men of color, black and brown boys across the board. And I won't start naming them, but the secret sauce of MBK is being able to bring those organizations in an alliance to make sure that we are filling in those cracks, that we aren't letting children fall through the gaps, or we're not missing anyone. If we're able to build this safety net, and we're able to improve systems, we're able to improve policy, we're able to improve just the overall supports and resources that are poured into these young men, then our community benefits all around at the end of it. And that's the outcome. That's the result, is you have stronger families in our community. You have boys that become men that are really leading our community in a very positive way. You have opportunities that are being created. You have people that feel welcomed in a city that's welcoming so many people from the outside, but not really looking at the people that actually exist and live here. We're actually liberating young people through literacy. We're taking the chains off, we're taking the confines off of them by opening up their world through literacy. And when you put books in front of kids and you build that love of learning, love of reading, you really open up the opportunity for them to be free with who they are, to really claim their identity, to really start to be confident in a way that they may not have been before. And once you build that confidence and you instill it and you support it and you really make sure that it's sustainable, there's no limit to where that young man could go after that. Whether it's high school graduation, whether it's getting a successful career, building a successful career, whether it's going to college, whatever post-secondary looks like for that young man. But you open up the opportunities and the world is his oyster at that point. And that's what we're doing for the young boys when we put a book in their hand, when we tell them to love reading, when, as Ashford says, affirming who they are, when we affirm that they are great, when we affirm that they can be whatever they want to be. That's the world that we're trying to create for these young men that we program with.
We're seeing more and more schools that are like, how do we get your program in our schools, right? One, it's not only about us being in schools, about the literacy, about working on college and career readiness, about the mentorship. It's about relationship building. Yeah. Many of the young boys want us to come back because myself and Lonnel and the men within our organization build relationships with our young boys, and that's what they want. They are yearning for a particular type of relationship from other black men, from other men of color, that isn't one about discipline only. It is one about sharing love, ups and downs, right? So we see young men wanting to be in the program, right? Lonnel will tell you a story about, we had an end of year celebration where we gave out t-shirts and not books this time. And the young boys were like, man, where's my book? I don't want this t-shirt, where's my book? Right? So we see them fostering a growing of love, but it's all about reading, reading, reading. We've seen the attendance rates for the boys that are in our program turn positive. We have our program not only to help kids read, but to keep them coming to school and to be kind of like an incentive for positive behavior, for good attendance, for good grades. We're going to give you a book. We're going to celebrate you. But we are definitely at the middle school level begin to expand and to kind of see what that looks like. But we know that from birth to age 3 is the important reading time. And from birth to the 3rd grade, that 3rd grade is one of our key milestones to have kids reading at grade level. So we are doubling down and trying to expand our efforts in that area so that we can have kids that are going to middle school loving to read and prepared to read. And as we continue to grow data, we'll continue to share this with the school district, with other organizations, with the community to show them, and data is there that read aloud, reading with communities work, particularly for Black and brown boys. I think it's important that we don't always just focus on the research that isn't intentionally focused on Black and brown boys, on the importance of reading in groups, read alouds, and consistent mentorship for this group of young people to be successful.
So without money, there's no mission. No mission without money. But seriously, it takes resources to do the work. For a couple of years, we actually tried to do the work without resources. We did zero-based budgeting. We were just going to plan events, and we were going to try to find the resources for the events as they would come along. But we also understood that crippled our growth, it crippled our capacity and the reach that we would have and the impact at the end of the day that we would have. And so we have a MBK Nashville Fund set up at the Community Foundation. We also have our website set up to where if you want to volunteer for our literacy events, or if you want to volunteer to come in to the Youth Summit and speak to our young people, we're going to be starting up our Leadership Academy soon. And so our website is www.mbknashville.weebly.com. And you can go to our website, get information. You can also follow us on social media or contact us through social media at MBK Nashville on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. I think we have a TikTok, but it's not active. But no, seriously, or you can reach out to my office, the Office of the Juvenile Court Clerk, reach out to Ashford directly, and we're always happy to get people plugged into what we may be doing.
I'll say this. Every dollar that our community is able to give to MBK goes to really a focus on a young boy in this city's literacy efforts, helping them to identify, to fall in love, and to cultivate the competencies to be a consistent reader, right? The money that we ask for, the money that we are shepherding, right, really is to help raise up young people in this city, right? We know that we have an issue with young Black and brown boys with literacy. This program that we're asking our community to support, right, is all about getting them the support they need right now, right, so we can mitigate some of the negative things that are taking place. Every dollar that our community is able to give to support this program goes to the work that we do doing college visits, making certain that we help them understand how to fill out their FAFSA forms, making certain that we understand and give them opportunities to look at different colleges that are here locally with our HBCUs to other universities that they may not even know they've had access to, right? Everything that we do, think about it from the lens of a child that may not have an opportunity. I always tell the story, man, when I was growing up early in church, right? Single mom. My mom was going to UT, finishing her degree at the time as well. And there was a young man at church. He probably was in his early 30s, had a family, and started to mentor me. You know, and I thought it was the greatest thing in the world on the weekends. And then he had a young child, right? And then he was like, man, I have to tend to my kids. I can't, tend to that, you mentoring you anymore. And, for a long time that hurt, right? To have someone that you were building a relationship with, and even though we went to the same church, but not for him not to come and pick me up on Saturdays anymore. And we go places and have those conversations that hurt, right? So I think about how do we shape these opportunities for young boys, be consistent so we don't have someone that's reaching out, wanting a mentor, but we don't have the time, the capacity, because we don't have the resources. In this city, we can't let the resources, right, stop us or be a barrier to us supporting our young Black boys and other boys of color. And we are a city of immense wealth and opportunity. And now is the time that our community, we're coming and saying, support this effort, support our young people, right? And support us as we continue to build the village and the coalition around our young boys and young girls, right? Because we are cultivating your neighbors. We're cultivating your students that are in your sons and daughters' classroom. We are cultivating the next leaders in Nashville. We have to make certain that we're preparing them properly so that they can lead in a manner that is for all humanity, and we can create that Dr. King beloved community.